Well, old Captain gets to play real world economist and study something I have no personal experience with. Social scientists, I should say. They're all bogus. So somebody has asked me my opinion on what makes successful marriage. And having never been married, I feel like giving advice when people say, what do you think about parenting? I've never been a parent. But let me tell you my observations. Because frankly, being a theoretician, I could do better than I could just academically point out some things. So this will be somewhat hypocritical of an opinion since I've never been married. One might argue that makes me more knowledgeable about marriage than most guys. How many, was it 50-50? Is that the success rate? What's the worst that happens? You get a little toenail fungus when you get divorced. Is that the worst that happens? You don't have to go through the hell to know it's not worth it. It's one thing to bet, $2 on red on the roulette table. It's another thing to take half your assets and put it on red. All right. A not so young man writes, "Hi, Aaron. As I mentioned in a previous request to you, I'm a retired 70-year-old white male. I don't know why everybody gives me their race. Unless you're going to talk about race, why does everyone give me their race? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, guys. The law of physics, the law of economics applies the same. As a Hispanic female, I just feel." Oh, you feel? Well, crap. I did all this research, empirical data, but since your Fifi's contradicted and you have to be this gender in this race, well, screw reality, screw data. Hey, buddy, hey, stop the presses. A Hispanic female feels something. All right, that's not what we're talking about. I'm a retired 70-year-old white male, happily married for 40 years. Well, what do you need my opinion for then, man? With 4 adult children and 6 grandchildren. My marriage and my family have been the greatest blessing in my life, as it should be. Logically, it has to be. Occasionally, someone will ask me what makes a successful marriage. I share whatever thoughts and insights I have on the subject. Now, however, I'm interested in your views regarding marriage. Why? You're like this ace fighter pilot. Hey, what's your opinion on dogfighting? I'm like a tank commander. I'm like, what do you want? What? I don't know. Shoot down more planes than the other guy? Don't get shot down? I got some panzers coming over. Hang on. Me and my Firefly are going to take it out. Oh, crap. This is thin armor. Occasionally someone asks me, and I show I'm not interested in your views. Can you describe 3 marriages among your friends and relatives, keeping identities anonymous, that you consider successful? Why you think these marriages work? Okay. Also, can you describe what makes a marriage successful? 5 traits, characteristics man make a husband, successful husband. 5 traits or characteristics that make a woman successful wife. All right, so I went empirical because I've never been married. One could argue nowadays that if you've dated someone long term and you break up, that's kind of the modern day marriage. But I've never been married, and I'll tell you this: you want 3 marriages because they are successful. That's good because I could only think up of 3. Where I was like, that's what I want, or that's what would be ideal. Because the rest of the marriages are crap. And I'm not cursing because I want this video to get out there. Not necessarily be monetized, but to get out there. Have ended in divorce. I've seen that roughly play out in my life. So much so to the point that I refuse to buy marriage gifts anymore. It's like, well, I'll get you an anniversary gift. If you keep it together, I'll get you an anniversary gift. I'm not getting you marriage gifts. Because half of them do fail. And then again, of the other half, 95% of those marriages are miserable, or they're just not happy. They're just there. So there are 3. Can you just describe 3 marriages among your friends and relatives? None of my relatives are happily married. I'll just be honest with that. I mean, some of them are miserable, but it's not what I've seen with my own eyes, where 2 people were just madly in love and enjoying each other thoroughly. So the 3 marriages, one is a family friend. I've known him for over 20 years. Mr. and Mrs. M. I won't say the last name. Mr. and Mrs. M. And they're both from New York. And they're like, Aaron, listen to Mr. M. I know what I'm talking about. They got a Jewish accent, but they're not Jewish. Heavy New York. Both Italians. And they're in their 70s. And they just love each other. And Mr. M and Mrs. M, they're still having sex. She loves him. She'll fetch him. She'll make whatever food he wants. He potches her in her ass. They give each other. You just know They enjoy and they're fun. They're happy. They're smiling. They're also intelligent, great conversationalists. And ever since I've known him, he's always got that sly smile, like, I'm tapping that. That's my keg, and I'm the tap. And just fun. They never leave never. So I don't think that, I don't know how else to describe it. The gal likes him. It's not, what can I get out of him? I mean, the guy's gone through hard times too, and she didn't care. She loved it. The vow, it's almost like those vows she took seriously. But the engine, the reason why she took the vows, sickness or health, rich or poor, because she's ultimately rich with that guy. She just loves that guy. She wants nothing else. Oh, he's provided greatly for her, no doubt about it. But that's that. Another one, these were the parents of an ex-girlfriend of mine. And God, Mr. A, can't mention them, Mr. A. They're the personalities matched as well, because Mrs. A was just a saint. You could see she'd make a great grandma, great mother, just a wonderful woman. But Mr. A was more like the prankster and a little bit, he'd not goad her, but he'd make a poke. He'd poke fun. And or he'd say something, maybe not even off color, but obviously it spirited fun. And she'd just roll her eyes and he'd snicker and laugh. And just a little devil. And she loved him. And he loved her. And I don't think Mr. A is still alive, unfortunately, anymore. But for whatever reason, he liked me. And just a charming fellow, and always thinking, not necessarily for good moral philosophy. He was always trying to, like, how can I get him out? It wasn't like he was full-time prankster. It wasn't that, but he'd always look for a little way to, tickle his wife's fancies mentally. And the wife was just the nicest, sweetest woman to me. I mean, I remember this was pretty early on in my day. I couldn't fully grasp or realize, like, oh, is this what it's like? I thought they were freaks. I'm like, this is weird. You're not yelling at each other. And it was, I won't lie, it was kind of odd going into such a functional family where, people would sit down and they were nice and it was quiet. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I knew something was different. But you could just see them, oh, Mr. A, and he'd smile and then the other one is another family friend. This is a parents of a friend of mine. You laugh at it because it's so rare. It's like we made it to Mars. Like you just look at it like, how? And you like to think there's a science. People are overthinking it. The tons of crap written about it, especially within the women's magazines. Just shut up. I got the answers. It's very simple. But another one, man, this guy, not to say the other two guys weren't my heroes. They were, but this guy, he ranks up there with my grandpa. This guy can fix anything. He built a house. He can fix cars. He can build a car. He's the ultimate man. Like, he doesn't, and there was no internet. He didn't teach himself on YouTube. He just learned this on his own. And he's just, he's like, wow, this is the coolest guy ever. Even I'm a full-grown adult male. I'm like, dude, this guy's like, remember when you were a little kid and like a teenager came over, you're like, wow, they're so cool. It's this awe. That's the only way to describe it, is awe. This guy knows everything. He can fix everything. He can build everything. And he's always got a personality and charm and characteristics. And it's very good and all. I'm not necessarily a prankster. But man, was he a nice guy. And I'm not saying nice like he was a pushover and was a kiss up. He just was a nice guy. He'd let you talk. Maybe that's something I didn't like. They were conversationalists in some way or another. But he'd have his jokes and all that. The guy's still alive today, thankfully. And a guy you'd go up to and you just shut the F up and listen to what he's got to say. And what are we working on today? And what do you want to do today? What do you want to do today, sir? What's the adventure today? And he's married to this wonderful woman. I don't know how long. I guess they got to be married to around 50 years now. They're coming up on 50 years. The kids are getting that old. And the mom, now here's kind of like a little bit of a different, this is the switch between Mr. and Mrs. A. The mom, I would guess, is more the not even socialite. She just got a touch more personality. Not necessarily humor, but she is funny, but he's more the reserved one. She's the more colorful one. And she's just, oh God. I mean, she's like, okay, Aaron, when you're driving around the West on your motorcycle, take in the different sage. I'm like, the different sage? She says, yes, different sage in different states have different smells. I'm like, what are you talking about? What? You go smell the sage. It's different in Utah than it is in Arizona. I'm like, okay, I smelled the sage. And I say, you're right. This smelled like sage to me. But you're right. That kind of does smell. I tried to find, I'm just trying to be like, come on, please smell different. Yeah, the Utah sage smells different than the South Dakota. See, and made her day. And what I like about her is I could joke with her. And when these two were around, I'd always act like I'd be hitting on her. Like, how you doing? Hey, Mrs. So-and-so, how are you? She's like, fine, Aaron. Like, give me a hug. Like, oh, that's a bad hug. Give me another hug. You have not been practicing. Give me a good hug. And the woman has cans. I won't lie. Gal's got cans. Now, I know she's older. Wouldn't lay a hand on this woman. But I was like, damn, her in her 20s. Holy cow. Mr. So-and-so, good going. And just this wonderful woman. And, I think if you tolerate me and my jokes, and she looks at me, rolls her eye. If they're rolling your eyes, you got them. You got them good. And, and the husband, hey, you get out of here. All right, I just want to make sure she can hug good, that kind of thing. And, I guess the best way to describe it is they're like, them not being your parents, their grandparents, even though they're roughly, what? No, I take it back. There's the Elkinses. They're a happy couple. But let's go with my three that I originally have. I don't want to bring in a fourth. But the mothers were doting. Like, what do you want? Do you want anything? It's good to see you. And it was sincere. I've dated gals where the mom, oh my gosh, bipolar psychopath. Again, never date girls from California. You just don't. But that's... those are the three marriages I've seen like where, wow, okay. I don't even have delusional hopes of having that. I really don't. I just kind of look at that. I'm like, well, some people got to win the lottery in life. And instead of jealousy, I'm eternally happy for those people. It's like, wow. And as I get older, when I was younger, I ran into that Mr. and Mrs. A back when I was like, I don't know, 19 or 18. I didn't understand it. I didn't appreciate it because I didn't date enough girls then. I was like, oh my God, holy cow. I thought we were going to have like a high-end menu. It's like, oh no, you just got McDonald's. And that was the Big Mac. That was the quarter pounder Royale with cheese that they had. But yeah, it's awe. You look at it and it's in awe where every day you get to wake up with someone where you're like, wow, I'd rather be with no one else in my life. And it's personality in it, but they're just, you start with good, high quality people. And so, do you consider success? Why I think the marriages work? Well, then you ask this question, what makes a marriage successful? 5 traits of characteristics that make a husband successful. All right. I wrote them down and we could talk traits, but here's what it boils down to. You put the other person first. I think that there's a lot of, maybe not so much a lot of other stuff, but we're talking, how do you get a human body to live? Well, you need some key organs, all right? You need a brain. That would be like looks for men. But you can't live on a brain alone. You need a lot of you need a heart and a cardiovascular. You need some lungs. I think you need your kidneys and your liver. I think you need your pancreas. I guess you need intestines. Is that an organ? Stomach, digestive system. I mean, it's not just one thing, but it's not this limitless list that women, he better, he better. It's kind of, once you got some key things in there, that's about it. But the main number one that is not available today for purchase, ladies and gentlemen, is altruism, selflessness. Without a doubt, the husbands and wives that I knew would sacrifice themselves for the other. They wouldn't like to, obviously, but the other person came first in their life. They absolutely adored the other person. And now, terribly sorry, ladies, you all got your heads up your ass, obsessed about your career. I mean, I will point out the action, not what people say. Look at the action. Modern day, most today, you would rather drop your kids off at daycare to be raised by a stranger than raise your own bleeping kids. Okay? That's not an opinion. That is an act for everyone in the world to see that you actually do place more value on your career, your education, than your own flesh and blood. So you men out there, man, it's hard. Well, yeah, it's hard. And it's even worse with marriage. Now, man, you have your own failings where you're not. Yeah, I hate to side with women on this one, but there is a contingent of men that are not manning up. You're fat, you're overweight, you stay at home. I know. I understand. Well, there ain't no good looking gals and they're all okay. Fair point. Fair point. Why would you invest the time, effort, and money? I would say for your own health and your own sake and your own pride and investment. But I see where a lot of you are clocking out. You're going ghost. Like, that's not worth it. I don't want to. Okay. But men in that same regard are not really putting the gals first in their life. Now, thankfully, men can go and do their own thing, and we were going to work anyway, so it doesn't really change our path, except for you guys that stay at home and jerk off to porn and play video games all day. But right now, I'd say the biggest turd in the punch bowl is women's obsession with themselves. The key conduit or the key thing they obsess about themselves is their career and education. And not loving human beings. But if you want your legacy on this planet for this little that you're here at 82 years, you're here, gone. If you want to be, well, she worked a lot and paid a lot of taxes and paid a lot in student loan interest. Well, good for you. If you want to have loving kids, and I have another younger couple. I don't want to mention them. They just sent me some jam, and there's another perfect example of a young family that actually is making it. But that is the main thing, is the lack of selflessness and altruism. I love this person more than me. And that just doesn't, it's not there. It's not there. And so when you put two people together, if one person or both have ulterior motives and incentives beyond the other person, you're now in a marriage of convenience or a business arrangement, as opposed to working to help out each other. And that's the number one thing I saw with this. Mr. and Mrs. A, they ran a company together, a small little company. And it was a job to them. They made their money and they wanted to spend time and they wanted to have children. And they raised two great kids. The Mr. and Mrs. Anonymous, they loved each other, or they still do love each other. And it was just about their family. And now the kids are all gone and now they got grandkids. But they're just, every day they wake up for each other. And they got their hobbies. Don't get me wrong. They're not always, oh my God, darling, today is another beautiful day that we shall falleth in love. And may I pick you some lilies? It's not that. The one guy I know is always working, tinkering on something. He's always, it's part of his charm. And then the other ones, she gets up. What's he? He gets up. What you do? Oh, hey, what's up? Let's go have fun together. It's putting that's the number one thing. And so, men, if you come across, and we got to take these are all people in their 70s, I think, or 80s or dead. You got to assess quickly for the man. And I hate to sound so biased, ladies, but y'all don't listen. So I'm only going to talk to the guys that, people that will. It's the guys. You got to quickly assess whether women want to fall in genuine love and have family and put humans first or not. And the quickest way to they'll tell you. They'll tell you on their dating. I don't need no man. Okay. You have every right for that. Okay, but you don't need it. Fine. We don't come first. My children from another marriage comes first. All right. Well, now you're in a paradox, a quandary, because now I don't know. It's pretty hard for you to. That's a handicap. But you know you don't come first, and nor should you, because it's her kid. You got to take kids trump spouses, I guess. How much investment do they put in their career and this? And I got to go to school. And well, how much time do you spend at the gym? How much time do you spend on like learning to cook and doing nice things for guys? What wifely qualities do you have? Do you bring to the table? Again, this does not prohibit you from becoming an engineer or a surgeon or doctor, but do you have a nice pair of heels? Do you have a nice dress? Do you find it degrading to cook food for them? Any of this, and if you just catch a hint of it, a whiff of whatever you want to call it, feminism, strong, independent, don't need no man, fish, bicycle trademark. No, not capable of marriage. Not the one that I want to be like, you see this, celebrating 70 years of marriage. I want that. No, you don't. You want a career. Now, this isn't to say men aren't effing up either, but the lion's share, the main turd in the punch bowl is, again, women's desire to put things other than husband and family first in their life. Again, libertarian, you have every right and choice to put whatever you want first. You can worship Moloch for all I care, but you're not going to have this. Okay, another one, my old neighbors, Russell and Dorothy. I think they both passed away. He was 16 and she was 18, and in the county he had to get his dad permission to date her and marry her, and they stayed married until she passed away. And poor Russell, he didn't do too well after that. Oh, but she loved it. Oh, I'd go and shovel the. Well, 80-year-old people can't shovel the drive, so I'd shovel it for them. Did a little angel come and I remember doing it. Did a little angel come and shovel our drive? I don't know about an angel. You haven't seen what's going on in my basement. I thought I was nice. Who's the nice girl you were? Oh, this one? What was her name? Jessica. Yeah, Jessica. That's her name. Oh, she seems so nice. Yeah, you may not see her again. Anyway, where was it going with that? Oh, but the whole point is Russell was Dorothy's life, and Dorothy was Russell's life. We should be. Dorothy was, I don't even know what Dorothy did for a living. Like, they were retired, but it didn't dawn on me. They just loved each other. They had their dog and they loved each other. That was it. There, point, purpose, and meaning. And a spouse. Now, do you want to up your game and become loving and doting, or do you want to be a royal pain in the ass? So now you want the 5 traits of characteristics. Okay, aside from that main one, altruism, I came up with them, and it's not that complicated. So for the gals, the wife remained attractive. Now, admittedly, they're in their 70s and maybe dead. But I remember they stayed the F in shape. They weren't knockout babes. They didn't all look like Sophia Loren at 60, but they were in shape. They were feminine, kept themselves kept. Well, especially Mrs. M. She still rocks it for a 70-odd-year-old lady. I'm like, you go. All right. Dyed her hair, try to look young, do what the man wants. Oh my gosh, does he have demands and wishes? Let me see if I can satiate some of those. I'm not even talking sex. So they just stayed attractive. They stayed in shape. Not knockout bombshells, but they stayed very, very attractive for their age. They would ultimately defer to their husband. I know you gals have a problem with that. That's slavery. No. one captain, one ship. You could be a first officer, and a smart man will listen to us. Well, what do you think? You're the only other adult in here. All the other kids are kids. But there's one. I'll even say, dude, before you have two leaders, forget it. Have the husband follow the woman. Have one dedicated leader, one dedicated follow. Doesn't work any other way. And having a woman wear the pants of the family is better than two people wearing the pants. It just won't work. But what I found is the woman, in some way or another, you could tell the man was the head of the household. And if there was like a final decision, or if it was tough, it would land on the guy. Or if just for the sake of expediency, the guy'd say, okay, let's all get in the car and go now. Small things like that. The women would pay attention. Oh, we got to get going. Let's go. Okay. The guy, you need one leader, one follow. I don't think I've ever seen any of these. I know, as a matter of fact, I've never seen a woman say no, like disagree, and never. Not that they were doormats either. I mean, they flirtatiously, but usually the guy, yeah, Mr. M, Mr. A. Well, Mr. A, oh, she just loved him. Fine. Yeah, he giggling. He's like Ernie. He was like Ernie from Bert and Ernie. He was like an old Ernie. That's what he was. He was an Ernie. But in the end, the guy would, and there'd be, and this is advanced marriage, ladies. You would support him, and there'd be no residual hanging on or pouting or tucking in. And if it failed, there'd be no. It didn't fail. These weren't big things, but it was just like, no, that's what Father said. Father, when Dad says, well, you go do what Dad says, and that's it. That's it. Also, it's very clear, as I said before, the wife very clearly put the husband first. The house could burn down. The business could be lost. A tornado could come through and destroy the town. I got my man. That's it. That's all they cared about. And they loved the guy. That was their life. It was the guy. I know. Don't need no man. Strong, independent. But compare and contrast. I'm talking to the guys because you're the only receptive audience really out there. These people had something bigger and more important than themselves. Most, not all, but most of your modern day women only have themselves. That's kind of a lonely, sad life when you have nothing greater than yourself. Because I don't know about you, but I'm kind of bored with myself. I don't need to know anymore. I don't need to take Aaron Clarey studies and get a doctorate in it. I really don't. It's kind of, I live with myself 24/7. I can't imagine how pathetic your life is where you're the most important thing in life. And so when it came to these women, their husband was obviously very, very clearly number one. I hate to bring in politics, but these women were not all Republicans. Most of them were. And I'd say modernly today, yes, you cannot be dating a Democrat, even a Democrat. But keep in mind, these are old people, some dead. There was a Democrat couple, but we're talking blue collar Democrats, not Marxists. The woman was certainly not a feminist. Certainly not. They just believed in helping the little people. Like Mark Dayton and Nancy Pelosi, the trust fund, but Dean Phillips, those guys. So, but the politics, there were no feminists, there were no Marxists. And I think that's another thing of what are you going to put first? Are you going to put your spouse first? This applies to guys too. Or are you going to put your politics first? And a very clear and obvious sign of that is where women will hyphenate their name. Nobody had hyphenated names here. Shock. Okay. The woman put the guy first. She didn't give a damn about her politics. Especially hate-filled politics and politics of envy and pettiness and parasitism like feminism or Marxism or something like that. And again, today, gentlemen, you got to look out there. What do you see? Swipe left if or right or whatever it is. If you like Trump, no Republican, no conservative, you can't. Just the false god that has replaced love and family and husband in women's lives with politics, career, education, socialism, feminism, whatever variant of socialism you want to call it. Yeah, that's what you get to face today. And that we wouldn't even have to mention that if politics haven't become so warped within the younger generations. if it hasn't become their modern day religion. But since it has become most women's modern day, because what do you do without love? Well, I guess you go to other things, right? Your career in education is a logical second choice. It makes sense. You're making some money. But what do you pursue spiritually? I mean, he's saying people who mock or ridicule Christianity or organized religion, ha, 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 look at those idiots. They go and just bow down at the altar of socialism that's killed, impoverished billions, killed hundreds of millions. But point is, it doesn't even have to be an ism. For example, dog rescue. I thought, oh, dog rescue. No, now that's your new religion. Okay, I get it. You got nothing else going on in life. You don't want to hit the gym because you'd have to think about what men want. It's hard to be a wife. It really is hard. It takes sacrifice, takes work, takes dedication. But a dog, you can eat whatever you want. Dog doesn't care if you're fat, thin, or hot. Dog doesn't care if you collect a government check or not. Dog doesn't care if you're a rabid socialist or a hardworking, rugged individualist American producer. He doesn't care. Do you feed me? Do you give me hugs? Cool. I mean, veganism, any other kind of hobby, where it's just that dog, it's like a substitute for real love, real humans in your life. So there's none of that. I guess I should say there's no, aside from like, if you actually do practice a real religion, take that God out of it, remove that God for a second. There's no other God but your husband. There's no other God but your spouse. No, apply the same thing with men. So there's that. And above all else, the women, above all else, but this is very key, women were feminine. Mrs. Mara always dresses very sharply, very put together. What else? Mrs. A always had dresses on. And the other one, she dresses real sharp. She's always put together, and you can, 30 years younger, not attracted to him, not going to lay a hand on him. But then you could they like it when you're like, hey, how you doing, Mrs. C? Yeah, how you? Yeah, oh, yeah, give me a hug. Oh, she loves the hug one. That was a bad hug. Give me another hug. A big smile on her face. Then the husband comes in and scores her. Get out of here. Like, all right. I just want to make sure she can hug. Like, how you doing, Mrs. C? Yeah. They eat it up because now that'd be what? Sexism, rape. What would that be today if you went to a young, hey, how you doing? Maybe you're gonna laugh now. I don't know. But they enjoy flirting. Oh, when their husbands flirt with them, they eat that up. Pinch them in the ass. Yeah. So that's what the 5 traits that the women had. With the men, some of them are the same a little bit. Not to say any of those don't apply to men either, but the characteristics that stood out for men are a little bit different. First, the men were in shape. Again, they weren't Herculean, but they weren't no obese fat balls. All right. Mr. M, Mr. C, Mr. A, all of them in shape. Right? Not jet, but in shape. Okay, so they kept the physique up for the woman. The husband also had this charm or love for life. I don't know how else to describe it, but they were just, maybe because they had a great wife. I don't know. But beyond that, like, yeah, Mr. A smoked a pipe. He loved fit. What do you want to do? Let's go. I mean, they're like granddads. Like, let's do this. Let's do that. Mr. and Mrs. M. Mr. M loved wine, loved food, big motorcycle. I mean, they did things in life. They didn't just sit there and mope. And then Mr. C, he's just a tinkerer. He's always fidgeting, always working, always making sure the house works because he wants his wife to live in comfort and not to have to worry about anything. Everything's got to be almost to a fault. He's almost obsessed with it. And but he would, we'd go on boats and there'd be grilling and he'd take kids for rides on tractors. And it was more than just dude bro over in the Prestige development in one of the richer parts of a major metro area where the guy would go slave away at work and didn't spend any time with you. I guess that's another. They did spend time with their children. They would. And they do fun things with their children. Again, very grandpa-like. My grandpa would take me fishing, Miller time. He get a real beer. I get a root beer at the VFW. I mean, They would invest in the children and they go have fun with their children. And I know a younger guy that does exactly that, post pictures up on the internet. So they love life beyond, of course, their family in there, but they had a thing, a skill or a trade, a hobby that they really enjoyed. The husband was always in one way or another flirting with the wife. Now to here, it's a degree. Mr. M, oh yeah, pitching her and making sexual innuendo, absolutely, constantly flirting with the wife, absolutely charming her, making her laugh. Mr. A, he was charming by being Ernie, just by being a rascal, and kind of teasing her a little bit. Oh, and she liked that. That's how he would flirt. And he'd give her a hug, and he, of course, give her a kiss. And they were probably a little bit more proper in front of me. But I really didn't think about their sexual life, frankly. But you knew he wouldn't just leave her and not talk to her. He's like, hey, what about it? And she'd yell out his first name. Oh, that's not right. Oh, okay. That's not appropriate. Okay, all right, that's not appropriate. So the flirt, the back and forth, the give and take, and then the other one, Mr. and Mrs. C. He wasn't really a jokester, but he maybe sneak a pinch in there every once in a while. I prefer spanking. I like the spanking. A pinch, you could do a pinch, but a spanking, I think, is a little. It announces things, like especially in public. You announce, that's mine. Then, that's a good rule. Like, can you spank your woman's ass in public, or will she get all offended? Really, I want to know. I mean, because you got the wrong gal then. Here's the divorce papers. Thank God I don't have anything. So there's always flirtation. Husbands were hardworking. That was another. They were always hardworking. They absolutely provided for their families. Yeah. And if they weren't with their family or maybe out on a motorcycle adventure, they were working, and they made it so that their children. Yeah, all the kids I know had some help. All the kids had help with college. God almighty, all the kids had good upbringings too. They came out way better people than I did. By the way, if you're going to get divorced, don't have kids. Okay, just don't have kids. Okay, just a rule. If you're not going to get married, don't have kids. If you're not going to stay married, don't have kids. If you utter the words starter marriage, spare a soul, don't have kids. And then finally, I don't know how this would work, but I think maybe it applies or plays out in the charm or love or the flirtation. These guys were smart. They are smart. I think to be funny, you got to be intelligent. Like, comics have some of the highest IQs out there. Good ones. And I don't know what it was or why. I know if you're smart, delayed gratification, you usually make better decisions, build up more wealth. Women genetically would be more attracted to that. But there was something about their intelligence. And I don't know how it plays in, but they were all very smart. Maybe not super Einstein level genius. They weren't no dummies. Street smart, literally smart. They'd spar. They catch your jokes. Like, oh, okay, all right, you caught that one. It did go over your head. All right. But they were smart, and I think women do like a smart guy because, at least women back in the day, back in the 90s, women wanted to be wooed and have their fancies tickled. They wanted to laugh, and if you got a gal to laugh, that is a sign she liked you and that you were doing good. And that's why I always say you should study some Cary Grant flicks and learn some basic key lines. But you also have to have your own devastating charm and wit and personality. Because even though I know you guys don't like it, you are supposed to kind of entertain the gal a little bit. I know in modern day times, you're supposed to do everything. Just, yuck, 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 yuck. Yes, master. Like the Bugs Bunny cartoon. Where he's dressed up like the jester. But women will laugh or they'll talk to you. But if you could just, with your own dry little personality, get them okay, how does it work? Rolling eyes that's a C. You passed. That's good. You did good. You passed. A laugh, a giggle, that's a B. That's better than average grade. But the A plus is when you say something and she backhands you in the chest and she does, and she's smiling. That you aced that test. Then they really like your personality. I don't know why hitting is necessary, but that's when you're in. You're in like Flynn, baby. You're in like Flynn then. So that's it. That's what I think is a successful marriage. The main thing is altruism and selflessness. You put the other one first. You have no other gods before you, be it career, education, things, SUVs, keeping up with the Joneses, status, your doctorate. What else? Yourself. Because you're going to be very lonely. Just ask Gen X women. Woohoo! Oh, accuracy. It's so funny. And then be hot. Not rocket science. You ever have those like how to make fried chicken? Not that hard. Pizza. Not that hard. You can't screw it up. Be attractive, both men and women. Be nice. Be charming and charismatic. Ladies, just support you. It's not hard. But I guess people are so selfish today, they don't want to invest. They don't want to, and admittedly, not a lot of quality candidates to say, why would I invest in this thing yapping with some other guy's kid, talking about her doctorate in socialist Marxist studies, why I got to pay her more. Oh. Wobble. Never mind. All right. That was uncalled for. Let's get to some super chats. Metal Madness for $5. Hey, Aaron, what would you suggest I do if I'm trying to live minimally and work minimal hours at my job, but I'm getting screwed for hours? Well, you got to find another job. What if you're getting screwed for hours? Like I thought you didn't want hours. Make up your mind. Look, guys, going forward, every one of you needs to have 2 jobs. Ladies, too. So if one boss gets a little lippy, you can always go on your reserve tank and tell them to buzz off. And you can lobby and get higher raise, better, Maybe not now, maybe not with unemployment so high as it is. But remember when unemployment was below 4%? Yeah, that was the time to go and negotiate. Cisco Hour, $5. All my friends who are still married met in high school and haven't banged, but more than 1 or 2 others. Once women try out the buffet, forget about it. Yeah, it's. I don't even think it's that. I really don't. I think it's the indoctrination and the brainwashing and how they've been so conditioned to NBC level to put themselves above all others in their politics and their career and their education. Even above their own bleeping kids. They can have kids. Boom, out to daycare. It's not your fault, Kai. It is not your fault. It is not our time. Okay? Wasn't our time. We get to enjoy other things in life, whether you wanted to or not. At any point in time, ladies, you want to say, that's not true. That's putting a good guy. All right. Start fat shaming. Start saying big is not beautiful. Start asking what men want. Start saying, you know what? We really got to do these X, Y, and Z things to get men in. I understand men have that. When I start hearing that, then I'll start that. But all we hear is big is beautiful, men bad. He better. Top 10 reasons you need to date a single mom. Okay, all right, dude. Space Ghost. Pop should write a book called Space Ghost. DJ Aftershock, $2. But master's degrees is more important than the chilled wins. Yes, they are. They are. Because, see, there was a study done by a bunch of feminist sociology majors that showed that the state does a better job of taking care of children. That study shows it. It's true. Miguel Angel Casillas, hey, $5. Laughing out loud. She needs to make sure hubby's invested by having him pay off her master's degree so she could stay at home mom, not wasting her education. Yeah. I got a request on that. Maybe I'll get to that today. Scott Lukey, it sounds like trying to get a girl nowadays is like defusing a bomb. It's also not your job. Rich Cooper and I I wouldn't even say have a disagreement, but we have different angles of a philosophy on this. given there are so few gals that are trained to actually be quality wife mom material, it's like, well, you got to grab one and kind of train and mold. And I'm starting to come more and more around. It doesn't change the fact that there's not enough tailor-made suits on the rack. You got to buy your suit and tailor it yourself. You got to work on the gal. And I'm starting to realize that's kind of a tiring and philosophically not our job. Like, I look, how much time I got? I don't have that much time to train you. I don't have time to sit here and argue with you on something as stupid and conclusive and not debatable as don't be fat. I mean, if I got to argue with you about the merits of losing weight and being physically attractive to your partner, male or female, and you're going to tell me that everything's all right, fine. You know what? That's 5 minutes I wasted. I could have been hiking or riding motorcycles or making money. Oh, Marcus Roque for $2. He had nothing to say. Thanks, Marcus. That's it. All right. More on the way. Questions, answers, aholeconsulting.com. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.